Hello, and welcome to another edition of Walking with Jesus. Sorry that today's edition is so late in getting out to you, but that's life. And so, better late than never. Today, we're going to be looking at just a couple of verses. Yesterday, or actually Saturday, we considered a passage in Luke where Jesus says that you can't serve both God and money. And this passage rings right on the heels of that. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and read the verse that we ended on Saturday, and then I'm going to move forward just two verses, and we will see what Jesus has to say. So, this is Luke 16, beginning at verse 13 and ending with verse 15. No servant can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. The Pharisees, who were lovers of money, heard all these things, and they ridiculed him. And he said to them, You are those who justify yourselves before men, but God knows your hearts. For what is exalted among men is an abomination in the sight of God. That's rather strong language. Anyway, so Jesus is going along and he's teaching, and he's making sure that the people know that there's only one master, there's only one Lord, and we need to serve him and him only. And that is God the Father. And Jesus is his present earthly representative. He is the Word become flesh. He is, in fact, God in the flesh, though they don't get that, and neither did his disciples. Had a great lesson with Art Dyer yesterday on that topic. But Jesus concludes the previous thing with the fact that we have a choice to make. Who are we going to serve? And we can only serve one. We can't serve two. And this is the Pharisees, who were lovers of money, heard all these things and they ridiculed him. Now, according to the commentaries that I've read, and I think this is true, it's not that the Pharisees would have thought of themselves as lovers of money. It's even as you and I may not think of ourselves as lovers of money. But we do like comfort, don't we? And we do like status. And the Pharisees enjoyed their comfort and they enjoyed their status. They were people that had followed the rules, and in following the rules, their life had become fairly good. And so they're sneering at Jesus. Now, they ridiculed him or they sneered at him. The term is, basically they flick their nose at him. They thumb their nose at him, that kind of thing. I'm not exactly sure how that is such a bad thing, unless maybe we're flinging snot on someone else. I don't know. But the idea is that they don't want to hear what Jesus has to say, and it's a chink in their armor, if you will. The Pharisees, remember, are the purity party. They're the ones who keep the law. They're the ones who try and do everything ritually perfect. They look really good, but their attitude towards money, Jesus points to and says, that's a chink in your armor. That's something that shows that your heart isn't where it needs to be. And so he says to them, you are those who justify yourselves before men. In other words, you want to make sure that you look right before men. We all have a tendency to do that, don't we? We want people to think well of us. We want them to think highly of us. And so we can have a tendency to be more concerned about what our fellow human beings think about us than we are concerned about what God thinks of us. But Jesus goes on, he says, you are those who justify yourselves before men, or you want to make sure you're right before men. But God sees through all the exterior. He sees through all the play acting. He sees through all the things that you're doing to try and make yourself look good. He knows your hearts. And this is true. We know that David was one after God's own heart. We know that the heart has been at the root of what is important for Judaism since God first spoke to Abram. And so the heart is what matters. And Jesus is saying, the God who knows your hearts is finding fault with you. For what is exalted among men, in other words, when we're trying to please people, when we're trying to make sure that we look good before our peers and before those around us, when we're concerned about our human level reputation, that which is exalted among men is an abomination in the sight of God. An odious stench is what the word abomination means, and it is used for things that were worthy of stoning in the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible. God doesn't think highly of the things we think highly of. He thinks highly about character. He thinks highly about humility. He thinks highly about us loving others sacrificially instead of becoming comfortable ourselves. And so, what is exalted among men, if we are striving to please the people around us, we'll find ourselves in a position where we become a stench in the sight of God. So, as you walk with Jesus today, I just want you to go asking yourself the question, who am I trying to please? Am I thinking heavenward and trying to please God? Or am I concerned about how I appear to those around me, and in so doing, possibly becoming a stench in God's nostrils? Well, don't thumb your nose at God and don't become a stench in his nostrils as you walk with Jesus today. God bless you.